Wow. Thank you, Ruben. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church West on this very crisp and bright morning here in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Many of us are descendants of settlers, immigrants, or descendants of those forcibly brought to this continent. We must recognize and never forget that we occupy the traditional territory of the native peoples of the Seven Council Fires, Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Menominee, Peoria, and Miami nations. We also acknowledge our need to address racism, which continues to lead to the violent deaths of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. We know that racism, settler colonialism, and anti-Semitism perpetuate inequalities, injustices, poverty, and exclusion in U.S. society. We commit ourselves to becoming an anti-racist faith community dedicated to equity, racial justice, and right relations. It's so good to be together as a loving and evolving community, gathering in and among so many different spaces here in the UUCW sanctuary and with those of you joining us virtually. We are part of the one interconnected web of all that is. My name is Stephen White, and I serve on your board of trustees. Today we're imagining how our joyful living can change us and change our world. And because this is the month of our annual pledge campaign, you'll also hear a bit more about that, including another beautiful love letter or two. Here are a few things that may help you to settle in. If you're a newcomer, in person or with us online, and you'd like to connect further, please talk to me after the service or send an email to visitor@uucw.org or use the welcome side of the yellow form that you received when you entered the sanctuary. You can put that form in the offering baskets later. After story time, children grade 8 and younger will be invited to head off with their leaders to their own space and time, and the nursery is open all through the service. There's lots of space to spread out, the carpet anywhere in the room, worship exploration table at the side, or the community room just outside the doors where the service is streamed. If socializing is for you, there's coffee and tea time after the service today. I'll be there and happy to answer any questions you have. And here's a challenge for each of us during that time. Talk to at least one person that you don't know. I want to highlight a couple of things which are also printed with your order of service. First, Karen Zimmerman invites others to join her and Wisconsin Unitarian Universalist State Action Network in the community room to write and send postcards to Wisconsin voters to encourage voting in the April election. I think we've got 50 postcards to do today. Then our annual pledge drive continues for the next 2 weeks, and there are still openings to attend a cottage meeting, a time and place to gather with a small group to increase our financial literacy and to discuss how to use our resources to serve our values. Leslie Peterson, on behalf of the stewardship team, will be in the community room following the service to answer any questions you might have. It really is a privilege to practice our faith by attending to things that provide meaning and guidance for us in our daily lives. May each of us find joy in our gathering.
Our opening words are those of Sharon Wiley. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. I say we are all afflicted and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we here find peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. And may we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together. And let's begin by singing, a very good place to start. Whenever we sing or hear spirituals, it behooves us to remember the context in which they were originally sung and to acknowledge the history that lives on in the lives of African Americans. Spirituals are songs created by people who were not free and who didn't know justice. They are the songs of enslaved people who dreamed that freedom and justice would someday come. And spirituals were a way to communicate those messages, often in code, messages that might help someone find a way to freedom. The song we're about to sing, Hush, is one of those spirituals. It's a call to listen for possibilities that don't yet exist, and it's sung from a place of not knowing what to do. And knowing this context makes this song all the more poignant and powerful. The words are printed in the order of service. And if any of you young'uns want to join Dave at the worship exploration table, I think today he has some ribbons that can be waved to encourage feeling this song all the way down to our toes. So let's stand if that works for you and fill the room with music. Somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush. Somebody's calling my name. Hush.
Somebody's calling our name. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and today we light it that we may hear the call of justice and freedom. May its flame light our way forward. Today's chalice lighting words printed in your order of service are those of Gordon B. McKeeman. I invite you to join in reading them with me. Deep calls unto deep, joy calls unto joy, light calls unto light. Let the kindling of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of love, of peace, of hope. And as one flame lights another, nor grows the less, we pledge ourselves to be bearers of the light wherever we are. With these words, calling us to be bearers of light, we kindle our chalice flame.
Good morning. I'm Milo Yule. My pronouns are he and his. The story I'm reading today is about how we need to remember that our actions affect so many others around us. It's called The Circle All Around Us, and it was written by Brad and Christy Montague. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. A safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you see what all can happen in a circle full of care. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends come to play? So you stretch and draw your circle, even bigger than it's been, and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in. In the circles all around us, wherever that we all go, there's a difference we can make and love we can all show. Yet there's still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw a bigger circle for them too. But it doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more we share. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. As time passes, our eyes open. We see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. As our circles grow and grow, and we watch them wonder-eyed, remember the first circle started with just the love you hold inside.
Thank you, Milo, and impromptu UUCW players. So we remember the love we hold inside and the acts that we can share with the world and all the people that we can affect with that. So Naomi has agreed to light our lantern today. And if you could please join me in singing our children's recessional while those here go to their religious education classes. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
Good morning. My name is Rita Piper, and I'm going to share my love letter. In 1987, Scott and I started searching for churches. I'd like to say that we felt a spiritual vacuum, but what catapulted us was our 7-year-old daughter who wanted to go to church. She was begging to go to church. She was carrying around a children's Bible, and she especially wanted to go to a very conservative Lutheran church like her friends. However, we valued a liberal religion, especially one, I always do this when I talk, okay, especially one that allows children to decide what to believe. And that is just one aspect of what we found at UUCW. For many reasons, our decision to join and pledge to UUCW was the best choice for us. How did our family benefit? Here's a couple examples. In the 90s, there was an active parent group with young children, and we met regularly in each other's houses. The kids trashed the host's basement while the parents discussed spirituality and parenting. Very helpful to young parents. More recently, Dinners in the Home kind of did the same thing where we really bonded with people in the community. Example 2. When our daughter Mel came out at the age of 15, she was one of the first kids at Wauwatosa West in 1995 who came out. She was seriously bullied. But this church accepted her. It was the one place that she felt cared for, loved, and accepted. Number 3, when our son Brendan joined the U.S. Army, deploying twice to Iraq, this community was supportive of us, and they understood our pain at having a son fight in a war that we fervently opposed. And finally, our youngest son, Lucas. With the UU High School group, he attended activities of repairers of the breach, leading to his early vocation, working with the homeless population and homeless kids and adults in Minneapolis and Austin, and volunteering in social service agencies in Central America. So let's circle back to our original reason for joining this church, religious freedom for our children. How has that played out? Well, currently, our daughter serves on the board at her UU Fellowship in Durham, North Carolina, where the UU Church and RE play a significant role in her family's life. On the other hand, our eldest son, the Army guy, joined a very conservative megachurch in Appleton, Wisconsin. Our youngest belongs to a small liberal Christian community in Austin, Texas, so that our mantra of every religion is accepted and UUCW encourages you to make your choice was followed by our children. Of course, we kind of liked some of the choices better than the others, but we wanted them all to be able to choose. So what have we given back to the church? For more than a decade, Scott and I both taught RE, including the Our Whole Lives curriculum. I chaired the RE community, facilitated soul circles, assisted with the auction, and many other activities in the church. Currently, Scott and I just like being worker bees. We're going to serve coffee like we do today. We like to do the church cleanups. That's our way of serving this community that gave so much to us. We found that UUCW is not only the best place to be on a Sunday morning, as Julie has said, it kind of enters your hearts and souls. However, as much as we have benefited during COVID and through minister changes, honestly, we nearly stopped participating, as many others did. Congregations and churches throughout the larger community have dwindled. Fewer people mean fewer pledges to support the vision of the church. So I encourage you all to pledge and to reach out to former UUCW members. We know that there's people that we haven't seen here in a while, so what would the impact be if each of us picked up that church directory and contacted 2 people that you haven't seen to say, look what's happening at UUCW, look at our vital community. What would that do for our church? So let's all pledge generously. And for those of you with young children, stay with us and grow with us. You never know what facets of UUCW might change the course of you or your children's life, as it did for us. So thank you, UUCW. And I apologize for being emotional, but this 35 years of being a member of this congregation has been amazing. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Rita, for sharing your love. We enter now a time of sharing of joys and sorrows and milestones and gratitudes that touch our individual lives. This sharing creates ripples, ever-expanding circles into our beloved community. So you're invited to come to the mic to share. As you do so, I will light a candle for you. If you'd like to stay in your seat, raise your hand and an usher will bring you a mic. I'll light a candle for whoever's sharing. Remember that what you share will also be heard by those who are online today. We'll edit this section out of the video before it's posted on our website, so please feel free to speak vulnerably and openly with just those who are gathered together now. And after each sharing, I'll respond with, "We hold you in love," and invite you to respond with me. So if there are those of you who'd like to share, please come. You can kind of form a line over to this side and use the microphone. I'm lighting one more candle for all the unspoken joys and sorrows, gratitudes that remain in your hearts. May they be held gently there. And of course, for all the unspoken, unshared joys and sorrows for those online, this candle's for you. And I invite you into a quiet singing of Spirit of Life, which has become a UU anthem of sorts. It's also kind of the 7th inning stretch, so if you'd like to stand, you're invited to do so. We'll sing it through twice.
Good morning. Our reading this morning is We Are Worthy from Elandria Williams. Elandria Williams served as co-moderator of the association alongside Reverend Mr. Barb Grieve beginning in 2017. Her unexpected death in September 2020 left a legacy of incomparable leadership. Her joyous presence and indomitable spirit left a mark on our Unitarian Universalist community and beyond. These are her words. We are worthy. We are worthy, not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what is in your mind, not for the support you give others, not for what you give at all. You are worthy and whole just because. In this great turning, in this great pandemic, in this radical readjustment and alignment, we are not disposable, we are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that has been thrown at us as a people. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise. We arise from the pain. We rise from the grief. We arise from the limits people place on us and the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves in relationship to our families and communities, recognizing our liberating and whole selves, honoring them and others as we strive for abundant communities, abundant lives, abundant relationships, and abundant values and cultural manifestations. We are worthiness personified. I, you, we are worthy and deserve a life where we are not always fighting for our existence. Imagine what we could create if we were not always in the struggle. Imagine what we could envision if we could just be let to just go there. So tired of always having to resist, to fight, demanding, pushing. To everyone that has the courage, the power, the ability to co-create what we want and need while rooting in what we can't lose and who we are. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dreams. No, you might not ever end up on some list somewhere, but you are on a list in someone's heart and mind. And if it's in how you move in the world so people can see by example, you are the embodiment of what we need. Thanks to all that are the embodiment not of productivity, but the embodiment of radical love, care, and sanctuary. It's time, embodiment time, embodiment. Living one's values out loud. Let me every day live my values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud, embodying our values. Not the productivity quotient, beyond productivity, past productivity, true embodiment, life. And now our choir shares a powerful song about living out loud and finding joy.
Whew, shouldn't have to talk after something like that. You know, on Tuesday morning, I was leaving this place. I stepped into the sanctuary to hear them rehearsing and was, as now, moved to tears. So much joy. You know, there's sort of something I want to tell you today that I don't know how to say. I find I can't really capture it. It's really profoundly real and so clearly true that I can't get my head around it. It's solidly what life is built from, and it kind of crumbles when I try to touch it. Still, I'm going to try to tell you. What I want to say stands somewhere at a crossroads, that kind of busy place, kind of mysterious place, an intersection where our inherent worthiness and our permission to live out loud meet and create joy. And then how that joy has a way of launching us forward. In his book, Inciting Joy, Ross Gay describes something similar happens in a place in that moment when we went free. He says, we went implies that the getting there, the escape or flight is always together. There is no freedom, despite all that pervasive, ubiquitous, bogus, me against the world, self-made, bootstrap baloney. There is no freedom absent we, unquote. Imagine what our joy can do, our joy together. I read Ross Gay's new book, Inciting Joy, in preparation for today and was really bowled over by what is a long, exquisite, painful eulogy for his father. Almost every one of his essays that are numbered to correspond to times in his life when joy was incited, every one somehow refers back to his father and his father's death. So there are two important things to note as I begin. Number one, my message might come off as a book report. And while I'll resist quoting Gay too much, at least directly, he writes so beautifully that I'm unable to resist quoting him. And I'm going to put his image on the screen in the sanctuary so that you can hear his voice through my words. Oops, didn't go there. There he is. And two, I might call this sermon a cover in the same way that an artist might cover a song. In fact, one whole chapter in Gay's book is about covers and how they're examples of non-possessively sharing. An ethic, he says, is embodied in seeds and gardens. He says, quote, "The cover is perpetual. We are perpetually covering. We are ever citational. It's called thinking. It's called learning. It's called making. It is called being a creature with. It is our only choice," unquote. And so I'm embracing this ethic today, covering Ross Gay, covering Inciting Joy, while simultaneously offering deep gratitude for how he shared his wisdom and poetry with me and with us. Imagine what our joy can do. At the beginning of the book, Gay first muses at the ways we often think of joy as a discrete emotion. A few weeks ago, I unimaginatively likened joy to unicorns, or how we think about joy as being all about unicorns and rainbows. Here's how Gay said it, that it's a space that washes you with clean air and glad music and comfy furniture and gentle warmth emanating from the white pine floors, suffused with light pouring in from the enormous windows, with a sweet window seat where you can read a happy book. See, he said that so much better than I ever could. And he's actually saying that's not what joy is. He then goes on to define joy as describing it as a potluck that's open to all. Kind of this creating ever larger and larger circles. And the potluck invitation is a message that says, bring a dish and bring your sorrows. And the potluck gets really, really messy with both food and all manner of emotion and activity and behavior. And then he says that joy is what emerges from how we care for each other in that space. What if, he says, what if joy, instead of refuge or relief from heartbreak, is what effloresces from us as we help each other carry our heartbreaks? Which is to say, what if joy needs sorrow for its existence, unquote. Imagine what our joy can do. And I can't resist sharing more of what Gay writes. My hunch is that joy is an ember for or precursor to wild and unpredictable and transgressive and unboundaried solidarity. And that solidarity might incite further joy, which might incite further solidarity, and on and on. My hunch is that joy emerging from our common sorrow, which does not necessarily mean we have the same sorrows, but that we in common sorrow might draw us together. It might depolarize us and de-atomize us enough that we can consider what in common we love. And through attending to what we hate in common, and though attending to what we hate in common is too often all the rage, and it happens also to be big business, noticing what we love in common and studying that might help us survive. It's why I think of joy, which gets us to love, as being a practice of survival, unquote. Joy, a practice of love, a practice of survival, a practice of solidarity. If that's what joy is, then I think we could talk endlessly about the possibilities joy might incite in us as a beloved community. And with the rest of my time, I want to invite you into the imagine part of that. Imagine what our joy can do. Here are some of my imaginations. Imagine if you brought all your sorrows into this place. Sorrows about harms you've done or harms done to you. Sorrow about losses or leavings. Sorrows of regret or ennui. Sorrows of multiple devastations happening around us. Sorrows for all the injustices. What if you could bring those sorrows here and could be vulnerable and shake your head and cry without shame, and we would pull ourselves up close to you and pat your arm or your back or take your hand and walk with you until you cry it out? And what if you could rage here for all those sorrows and the meanness you encounter, and we would listen and rage with you and give you the space to tell it out loud? And when the time was right, together, we planted some seeds of light and hope, and then watered them together and harvested the fruit and shared it freely. And what if, when we can't figure it out, we could sit and just wonder together and submit to the mystery? And as we did so, we would study one another and creep into the darkness together to explore and to learn and maybe even to fly, and then had a tough chat with one another where we told truths and were held. What if we knew deep down and with unflinching surety that we are loved and worthy and divine human beings, and that to be alive together means that we are forever inextricably interconnected beneficiaries of a largesse so large and so deep you will never in one lifetime get to the bottom of it? And what if we were to come to believe that we will never pay that largesse back? We can't do it, nor do we need to, although we may devote our every waking second to that task. And what if our joy led to a solidarity where we cultivated together a place of learning and of study and of paying attention to our connections, a place where care happens all the time and where the mycelial threads connecting us, the lustrous web, joy, is flickering there in wait all the time. Those last words were a quote from Gay again. The mycelial threads connecting us, the lustrous web, joy, is flickering there in wait all the time. And what if the outcome of joy was plain and simple in Gay's words, to make beautiful shit together? To make a beautiful, imperfect, beloved community together, one that flows into us and through us and out of us and into the world, inciting more joy and more solidarity, which would incite more joy, which would incite more solidarity, and on and on. Gay is a professor, and after giving his students what seems a magically impossible array of assignments, he has this big list of assignments, things like write 30 plays in 60 minutes, or make an atlas of Glee, or create a performance in which there must be touch, silence, a map, flowers you do not injure, and sunlight through a sycamore tree. Or build puppets of trash found around the building. He concludes such a list with 3 final requirements. 1, make it so it matters to you. 2, don't do it right, because good art isn't right. And 3, make it beautiful, because. Again and again and again, because. Imagine what our joy can do, because. Imagine all the beautifully impossible things we can do just because we're caring for one another and paying attention to what matters and to the things that we love in common. Outlandishly improbable things could happen. I believe that. Imagine. There are many problems, issues, sorrows, griefs, and those things may always be there and always with us. Those things are not fixable, but that doesn't mean we should chain ourselves to hopelessness or despair. As Gay says, we aren't beholden to the makers of the end of the earth, unquote. Rather, we can do something else, like being beholden to each other and to all our relations, human and otherwise. Imagine what tenderness, what healing might be possible. What if, as writer Patrick Rosal implies, we could put all that we carry and grieve on a common altar and then sit together and listen for the beginning of a new world? What if we were to just stay put with one another and listen and ask and wonder and understand and accept and act? As we enlarge our circles, allowing more and more of what's real and true to be shared and experienced, allowing more and more people into those circles, creating bigger and bigger circles, joy is created, and that joy creates the possibility of more solidarity, more creativity, more possibility. Joy then acts like a kind of springboard, catapulting us forward, drawing us toward that new world. So, what if we could live at this intersection where our belovedness and our living out loud and our changing and our discomfort and our grief, what if we could live at this intersection called joy? And what if it was right here, this intersection, in the presence of others, where we make change and are changed, where we love and are loved, where we die, where we come to life, this place where we bear witness to all of it. I close with one more direct quote from Ross Gay, but before I do, I again express my gratitude at the serendipity of coming across this book. The title for today and for our stewardship campaign was picked long before I came across this book. And if you'd like to see direct citations, ask me for a written copy of my words today, or just read his book, because we are very indebted to him. And so finally, Gay says, when we allow and expect each other to change, and even more, when we witness the learning, the changing, the grieving, with curiosity and patience and care and love, when we make room for and witness and invite each other's unfixing, and so are unfixing ourselves, when we join the grieving, when we join in grieving, and when we do it again and again, making of that soft, mutual, curious, groundless witnessing not only an endeavor but also a practice, when we do these things, we fall apart into one another. We fall into each other. And when we catch the grave light shimmering from the tethers between us, and when it happens, are dying again and again in each other's presence, this falling together, it is called, this holding each other through the falling, I'm pretty sure of this, one of the names anyway, joy. And given as we are always falling, we might always be holding one another like this. We might always be holding each other through our falling and submerged that way in the grave light of joy. Unquote. Here ends my book report on inciting joy. When we are changed, when we hold each other, joy is flickering here in wait all the time. Imagine what our joy can do. May it ever be so. Amen.
Hi, I'm Gina Barton, and I felt like it was important to speak today about all the love I have for this church. Religion and faith have always been an important part of my life. And I was raised in a church where we went every Sunday and were committed to praying before dinner, all that sort of thing. I always kind of had issues with that faith, but I was still really moved by the rituals and prayers and felt like being a part of that church was a part of my identity. Until about my mid-30s. And then I realized that the dogma they were preaching would never, ever make sense to me, no matter how hard I prayed to have more faith. So I stopped attending. And for about a year, I drifted. I missed having a spiritual practice, and I missed those moments where I felt that connection with the Spirit and with this otherworldly power. My partner suggested that I try a UU church, and luckily for me, UUCW was nearby. The first time I visited, as soon as I mentioned that I had children, a couple of parents introduced themselves and told me all about the OWL program. I have to tell you, I was pretty shocked. In my former church, they never talked about sex except to warn unmarried people not to do it or else they would go to hell. So I thought that was really interesting and kind of exciting and something that maybe I wanted for my children. When I came back the next week, Reverend Suzelle greeted me by name before I had even filled out my visitor name tag. Now, coming on Sunday isn't usually a problem for me, but weeknights are crazy. And so due to my custody schedule with my 2 kids, the only night I have free is Tuesday. So I found a group that met on Tuesday nights to discuss TED Talks. And every week, someone showed me a new way of looking at the world. And when my partner asked me how it was going, I said, "It's like Montessori school, only for adults." In tough times, I have always found support here. When my daughter was about 12, she had a bowel obstruction, and she was in the hospital for a couple of days. And my first time back at church after that, one of the women from the TED Talk group found me and gave me a hug after the service and asked me how my daughter was doing and if everything is okay. A few years later, when one of my cousins died suddenly, Reverend Suzelle called me, even though I hadn't mentioned to her that he had passed away. A few years after I joined this church, the choir changed its practice night to Tuesday. I was so excited. I love to sing, but I was still nervous about joining. I hadn't sung in front of people since high school, and I cannot read music very well, as Ruben will tell you. But when I showed up at rehearsal, everyone welcomed me enthusiastically, and not just because I'm an alto, which are usually in very short supply, although we have quite a few now. My kids never wanted to come to church with me, and I didn't force them. But they did come every year for the holiday music service to hear us all sing. And at one of those services, there was an announcement about a meeting for LGBTQ youth. And my daughter, who had recently come out, could not believe that a church would welcome and support gay teens. She went away to college this year, and she started attending the UU services on campus. It made me so happy and proud that she can find God and spirituality and strength in a religion without judgment that encourages independent thought. I am definitely not the member whose donations keep this place going. I have struggled financially my entire adult life, but I do what I can. And when I recently got the letter asking if I would increase my pledge by 5%, I did the math, and I decided I could increase it by that much and even a little more, because I always want this place to be here, even after I'm gone. I just love it so much.
That was lovely, Gina. Touching and real. Thanks for saying that out loud. UUCW's Split the Plate program, one of outreach and generosity. Each month we give half of all undesignated offerings to a nonprofit organization to help us live our Unitarian Universalist values and serve our community. Our partner for March is Vivint Health, an organization that has been at the forefront of the fight against HIV since the earliest days of the epidemic. Located at 820 North Plankinton Avenue in Milwaukee, Vivint Health is Wisconsin's largest HIV clinic, serving 5,000 local patients last year. Let's watch a short video that will introduce you to this important agency.
There's a word for people who fight tirelessly against a formidable enemy that has robbed us of wonderful individuals living to their full potential for too many decades. There's a name for someone who's facing the future with their eyes wide open, aware of the risks that lie ahead. And there's a word that means nothing, yet it means everything to people living with HIV. And a name for people who face prejudice and are treated harshly for simply living their truth. There's a word that applauds every step forward in the fight against HIV. There's a name for people willing to fight at the forefront for a cause. And now there's a name for the tens of thousands of patients, employees, and supporters who represent the new face of HIV. Vivint Health, providing comprehensive prevention, care, and treatment for anyone and everyone affected by HIV.
Vivint Health offers people living with HIV the highest quality care, including wraparound social services designed to support the whole person. And perhaps most of all, they provide a safe, judgment-free zone for everyone they serve, regardless of whom they love, the color of their skin, where they live, or how much money they have. The goal is to help people living with HIV live long, healthy lives and work toward ending the HIV epidemic. If you are participating virtually, please go to the UUC website's Donate tab and select Split the Plate from the menu provided. Or you can text or email your donation today using the information found here. Today, I thank you for your generosity to Vivint Health and to UUCW. We will now graciously accept your offering.
now let's sing as we prepare to head out into the world. Pick up a gray hymnal and turn to number 298, Wake Now My Senses, calling us to wake up and pay attention to all the beauty and joy and possibility that surrounds us here together. Number 298. Please remain standing for our closing words. Here we are at the end of this special time together, hopefully feeling some joy for the blessings of having spent this time together. Just take a look around, take it in, offer a prayer of gratitude for all that we have. Our closing words are those of where they were written by Kimberly Quinn Johnson. They were written to be a part of the Promise and the Practice, which is a packet of worship and religious education resources, calling us to listen deeply to the stories in our movement that have not been heard or taken to heart by all of us. These resources center the voices of people of color within our movement. And here are her words. Hush. Somebody's calling your name. Can you hear it? Calling you to a past not quite forgotten, calling us to a future not fully imagined. Hush, hush, somebody's calling our name. What shall we do? My friends, joy is flickering here in wait all the time. Let us imagine together what our joy can do. Blessed be, Ashe, Amen. Be seated.